In this video, I'm going to show you my top tips to get the sharpest possible images when you're out shooting landscapes. The first tip is a bit of an obvious one, but essential nonetheless. It is of course using a tripod. The beauty of landscape photography is that you generally have a bit more time to compose and finesse your framing, so it's a good idea to use a tripod for this reason alone. But they also remove the chance of camera shake, which is caused by the movement in your hands, and more premium tripods will have thicker leg sections to make them more sturdy too. My next tip is to use a lens hood. These are plastic accessories that clip onto the front of your lens to stop light coming in at a harsh angle, which can cause flare and reduce the contrast in your pictures. Not all lenses come with one, so you might need to purchase one. Or alternatively, you could hold your hand over the top of the lens to use it as a sunshade when trying to minimise flare in your pictures. Image stabilisation is brilliant for reducing the amount of camera shake in your pictures at slow shutter speeds when you're shooting handheld. But they can actually become confused when shooting on a tripod, correcting for movement that isn't there and actually increasing more blur in the image. So if you're shooting on a tripod, be sure to turn this feature off. Now we're going to turn our attention to the camera settings. The camera is all set up on the tripod with the lens hood attached, and we've switched the stabilisation off, so we're on track to get some super sharp shots. Now what we want to do is put the Canon camera into its aperture priority mode and set a middle aperture of around f11. This is generally the sweet spot of a lens that produces the best combination of sharpness, depth of field and a low amount of softening diffraction that you experience when shooting at fully closed apertures like f22. You'll also want to shoot at your lowest native ISO value, typically 100 on most cameras for best image quality. Before taking the shot, we need to make one more tweak, and that's to set the Canon drive mode to 2-second self-timer. This can be done in the quick menu. Believe it or not, actually pressing the shutter button can be enough to move your camera even when it's on a tripod, which results in a blurry shot. So enable this drive mode to avoid that movement being picked up. It's also worth enabling RAW shooting to capture as much exposure data as possible and increase your editing options for better image quality. With your super sharp shots now taken, it's time to bring them into Photoshop to make them even sharper. We shot in the RAW format, so we'll open our shot into Bridge and then just double click it to bring it into Photoshop's Adobe Camera Raw. And now what we can do here is apply our general RAW conversion, just expanding the dynamic range a little bit like this. So I think that's a pretty good rough job to start with. I might even just darken the sky down a little bit as well with a graduated filter. But what we really want to do to this RAW is make it even sharper. So we're going to head over to the detail panel, and then we can see the sharpening is already set to a default value of 40. We're going to increase that to 50 just to make it a little bit sharper. And then at the moment we're sharpening the whole shot. So what we're going to do is use this masking slider here. We're going to hold down the Alt key and then we're going to drag this masking slider to the right. And we'll see that now we're only sharpening the parts of the shot that are shown in white. Anything in black, like out of focus areas or background noise, that's not going to be sharpened. So we're just sharpening the details that we want to. And I think that looks pretty good. And then obviously you can head back to the basic panel, continue on with your RAW conversion, but now you're going to have the sharpest possible image. So there you have it, 6 easy tips you can follow the next time you're out shooting landscapes to make sure they're super sharp.